what would you say, what are different methods that you use during discipleship get-togethers?
Yeah, I think they're all different types of discipleship. And so there can be one-on-one stuff where you're meeting up one-on-one.
Right.
Small group leaders are also disciplers, right? Small group leaders meet up with groups of 5 people. It can be weekly. It can be once a month. The school that you run is where guys come and live with you, which is the strongest form of discipleship, right? Where they actually, well, why is that strong? I would say is because the goal is, like you were talking about earlier, is where we have an expression of Jesus that's inside of us.
Yeah.
We built up a culture of faith, a culture of experiencing him. And so when someone begins to live around that culture with a humble heart, they begin to take on that culture.
Right.
And so living life on life is powerful, but that's not always possible, right? So I have 4 kids, I work, right? And so that's not possible for me to have guys come live at my house for 3 months. And so it's simply getting out of the programmatic feel of it and actually having the heart of someone who disciples. And so if you develop the heart of an older brother, of a spiritual father, depending on your age, you're actually going to be discipling more people than you simply have a disciple session with, right? And so for me, it looks more like having an intense time in Jacksonville. There's a Bible school there that I help out with. Having intense time with them, loving them, getting to know them, getting to see the beauty of each person, and then walking with them as they go back to their hometown, as they go back. And that's sometimes texts or calls or voice texts. I really like to voice text people. And so that's for me what it looks like. The goal is getting out of identifying, okay, if it has to be once a week or once a month face to face or whatever, and actually just having the heart of an older brother for people to build up, to impart the testimony of Jesus that is inside of us, right? Inside the Word more than anything, into them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so take us through a process of even how do you determine who you're discipling? Yeah.
There can be 2 different aspects to it. The first time, it was just the Lord saying, disciple this guy. This was around 10 years ago. And I told God, I don't even know what that means. What does that even mean? And he said, meet up with him. So I met up with him. And afterwards I asked God, how did I do? And he said, you did good, but you should have prayed for him. And so sometimes the Lord will impress people on you. But sometimes too, I've had things where I've come before the Lord and I've had a season of time ahead of me. And I've asked the Lord, would you show me who you're calling me to invest time in? And so, and if you're, if people are watching this, people are listening, they can do the exact same thing. Lord, who? And just resting. And so often faces will come up or names will come up. And a lot of times they'll be 3 to 5 years younger than you. The Lord loves to kind of place us, like we were talking, we haven't run this race. I'm not 80 years old. I'm not Billy Graham, but I'm a few years ahead of people who are in their 20s. And so he'll begin to highlight people. And then what I do is I just begin to text them. So I pursue them and say, hey man, I was praying for you and your name came up in my mind and I just let's meet up for coffee. And then just meeting up with them and just loving them in a moment in time, really seeing the beauty that each person is. And and then when you're there, probably telling them, hey man, let's meet up, once a month. What do you think? What do you think about that? And if they're in Jacksonville doing that. So that's the process. It's just it's not programmatic. It's very Spirit-led, and it's just being sensitive and it's asking questions and then resting and trusting that He does speak with you. And as you begin to step out in those contexts, you begin to realize that what His voice is, what His voice sounds like. And so that's for me how I begin that process. It's pursuing people in love. Love breaks down all the barriers. Some guys that we're sitting down with, every male figure in their life has let them down. They don't know what it's like to trust somebody. They don't. And so when you come though with a meek heart and a loving heart, the heart of Jesus, it breaks down all the walls and you can just love them. Yeah.